So, hello and welcome to the interactive webinar titled The Role of the PMO in Resource Management in an Agile World. My name is Ardin Jalali. I have the pleasure and the honor to host this webinar today. And first of all, I want to introduce our speakers of today to you. First of all, we have our guest, Eduardo Alvim. He's a SAFE Fellow, an international consultant, and Principal Business Agility Consultant at Gladwell Academy. And this is a Heiberg company. He assists organizations worldwide in their journey towards business agility by implementing practices from agile product development, lean portfolio management, and more recently by guiding enterprises as well in developing AI native fluency. He has to bridge the AI skill gap. With over 2 decades of experience, Eduardo is a prolific author, podcast host, and keynote speaker, recognized through provoking insights. And we are very glad to have him today and are looking forward to some further provoking insights in our session today. I want to introduce as well Dr. Jörg Leute. He's founder and managing director of IT Design, the company behind Meisterplan. He's a true entrepreneur, a creative personality, innovator, and pioneer in lean project portfolio management. Jörg has helped numerous organizations in building manageable, impact-driven portfolios. He brings deep expertise in resource management and strategic portfolio design. In the background, Dorina Strain is helping us from our team from product management. Thank you very much, Dorina, therefore. So briefly, I want to introduce the agenda of today's meeting, and therefore I should get to the next page, which doesn't work at the moment. Let me try this. Dorina, can you help me to get to the next page here? Now, okay, wonderful. So again, we have the speakers here, and I will introduce the links, our contacts at the end again. Then first we will have a welcome and intro. Then we do an agile reality check, how we call it, and there Eduardo and Jörg will introduce to you their experience, what they're seeing right now in the field, what is happening in the organizations with their clients, in the discussions, in the academic discussions, in the field, as I said, and what patterns or shifts they are seeing in regards to the PMO and their role in the agile environment. Next, we will come discuss, there will be 2 statements, first from Jörg and then from Eduardo about this. We want to have an interactive session here today. Therefore, there will be a poll. And after this, we will have a discussion more in depth about the 2 statements which we saw. Then there will be a live demo in which Jörg will show you how this looks like in practice, how PMOs can act in agile environments. And after this and throughout the whole session, dear participants, we ask you to participate. It's an interactive session what we are having here. And so therefore, we would ask you to post your questions here in the question panel. Please not in the chat, in there, just follow the question mark here and then post your questions here in the panel. And your feedback will be welcome as well at the end. And this webinar will be recorded. So now, Jörg, the stage will be yours at the beginning, and I will ask, the question is, so based on what your currently experiences in real world customer experiences, how are PMOs evolving in agile organizations? What do you currently see?
Thank you, Arden. Thank you very much for asking, and thank you very much for hosting this and setting this up. First question, can you hear me? I hope that works.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thumbs up. Thank you, perfect. All right, so the question is really relevant because I have lately seen and talked to some people that have either taken advantage of agile transformations or have actually suffered from these agile transformations. So before I go into this, there have been different types of PMOs since they existed. So every PMO that I've met across every company that I have met is different. This is interesting. There's no one size fits all PMO. This is good because PMOs should do what is best for the company, and some PMOs support with reporting. Some PMOs actually carry out projects. Some provide training. Some just collect numbers, and some do other things. And most of these PMOs are adding a ton of value to the company. Some others have gotten into trouble lately. And let me give you an example of what I've seen. About 1.5 years ago, I was talking to a company I've met, and I just asked, all right, what is it that you do in your PMO? And they said, at the moment, we are compiling a list of epics, and because we had an agile transformation, and our software developers are now agile. So what we do at the moment is we helped them create or come up with a list of all the epics that they want to do. And I said, oh, that's great. That's so you're not working with projects, you're working with epics. That's great. Yes, we are. Okay, so what do you do? Do you help them prioritize these? No. Okay, do you challenge them regarding the selection of the epics? No, we don't. Okay, do you dig into these epics, and do you ask them how they came up with a solution description or something like this? No, we just help them create the list. And I was actually wondering what the value add was that this PMO was providing to these departments, because I thought sooner or later somebody in these departments could think we can probably create this list on our own. And I talked to them sometime later, and then the PMO was not there anymore. And I had the impression that this is not something that is rare. I've seen that a couple of times lately. The pattern that we see is that many or most of the companies that I know have switched to some part, or maybe the whole or everything, the whole company, to work in an agile, or let's say product-driven mode instead of projects. And that per se is good. Agile is a great thing. It's faster time to market. There's less waste. There's empowered teams. And empowered teams is a very important thing, but what we have to know, and what everybody knows, is empowered teams means decentralization. And decentralization, this is why we put this picture up, sometimes is quite the opposite of what the PMO's job originally was. So because PMOs were about gathering information, about collecting information, about consolidating things, and then making them decision ready, and getting them that stuff ready for the top people to decide. And with decentralization, that's sort of gone. And then these agile people, some of those people have a strong opinion, and they say, what, we don't need this anymore. We have our product owners that do this. And what, resource management? What do you mean resource management? We have a prioritized list of requirements, and the team pulls the next one. Why do we need resource management? And by the way, why do we need you? What's the benefit that you PMO guys are adding? And some PMOs are stuck in traditional processes, and these don't fit anymore. And this is why some PMOs feel disconnected from the business value, and they lose touch with their stakeholders. They lose relevance, or even their sense of self-worth, and that's sad. It's actually sad, because I think PMOs can definitely add value in an agile world, and we will get to this later and have a couple of examples. But just once again, how does it start? I think there's an important change in the organization, like this agile transformation. Then it happens that these PMOs feel out of touch, and this is how the whole thing starts. And I've seen this happening many times. One footnote here: AI will make this even worse, because all of the, let's say, of the the plumbing work that PMOs have been doing, and sometimes that was a lot of their work that would be made with AI, you know, consolidation of data, reporting, dashboards, stuff like that. That will be done by AI, and that means if PMOs that don't truly add value or insight, they will be exposed, right? And then so people start turning away from these. I would love to understand how it is in your organizations at the moment. Dorina has prepared a little poll that she will bring up right now, and then I would be very interested in how close you are to your key stakeholders. Are your stakeholders, do they love you? Do they respect you? Do they truly value your work? Do they tolerate you? It's like, yeah, okay, you know, just, you know, they have to do this. It's all right. Or do they actually actively ignore you and just, you know, these guys just add extra burden to my day, and it's just annoying. So please take the time to click on this. I would be super interested in seeing how you guys are doing and how it is in your organizations. Okay. All right. This is super. Dorina, how long should we let this run? A minute, maybe?
Yes, a minute, yeah. I would say. Okay. Feel free to vote. You have like 10 seconds left. That would be very interesting for us.
Okay, I think, all right, perfect. Thank you very much. And I'm relieved, to be honest, because I see that the scale is tipping to the value side, and this is a great relief. So thank you very much for participating. I see that. So the almost 40% are, or let's say, in the middle, and so they see that people perceive these PMOs as necessary, and this is why they work with them. And I'm also very glad to see that we're leaning towards the left side, and there's not so much devastation already in your organization. So this is great. Thank you very much. It's quite a relief. Eduardo, have you seen similar patterns recently, or let's say for the last couple of years? How's your experience?
So call it a regular Monday for me, in fact, because this is something that we see in every company. Not every company, but many companies, in fact. And it doesn't matter which kind of company you work for instance, which kind of segment, which kind of industry, which country as well. This is something that we see. And but I'm also glad the same way as you have mentioned, Jörg, for instance, when you see that there are companies that they see PMOs as adding value to the business and adding value to the people as well. So this is great to hear. But there's always this dichotomy between the ones that they see as a value and the ones that see as a burden, or just someone that is there as a gatekeeper or something like that. So I have just to bring some real case here. I'm going to share with you. I was working with this company, and the PMO was a very traditional one, although it was an IT company, right? And then the PMO was seen mostly as the guardians of the methodology, for instance, and tooling. That was it. So how can the PMO have any strategic positioning in the company if they are only seen as someone or a group that will take care of the methodology and someone that is going to take care of tooling? So that's really not the positioning that we envisage for a PMO, for instance, right? So this is a big problem. This is a problem for the companies, but this is also a problem for the professionals, the PMO professionals themselves. Okay, it adds up, in fact, when these companies they are using some sort of the agile thinking, the agile way of work, or the lean agile principles mindset, if you will, right? Because then we start taking a look at some of the frameworks that implements the Agile Manifesto, the principles, for instance, and the values, like Scrum, Kanban, or if we go for others in terms of scale, for instance, for SAFe, Nexus, and others, for instance. So the less and less the PMO, they are adding value in this kind of situation, for instance, because you have a framework, so pretty much everything is described, roles, meetings, and everything. So the thing is also, I would also like to highlight one thing that you have mentioned, Jörg, because this is more, every day it's becoming more and more important as well. So how can we integrate artificial intelligence into a PMO, or the AI PMO, if you will, because this is really important, and I'm seeing more and more companies, they are going this direction as well. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, for instance, I went to Amsterdam, and then I got a group of 30 professionals from my company, and I was training them in AI native subjects, for instance. And I'm not talking about IT people. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people from a PMO, people from HR, people from finance, people from accounting, management, marketing, because those are skills that we have to start creating, muscles that we have to start creating as well, to start adding more value. So if you would ask me what a PMO should be about, so a PMO should be a strategic partner for the organization and for leadership as well, to solve actual business problems. And that goes way beyond methodology, processes, or tooling. It's really partnering with leadership, with management, understanding the customers, what do they need, what do they ask, and see how can we, as PMOs, we can start providing some solutions that will help them to solve their business problems. That is the way that we are going to start changing little by little this perception that the PMO, for instance, is only seen by methodology. They are the guardians of methodology, or they are owning the tools and do not add a lot of value, for instance. But there are so many things that the PMO also can do. You have mentioned a few yourself, Jörg, for instance. So one of the trends that we are also seeing in the market nowadays is this shift from a traditional PMO to a VMO, a value management office, okay? And that totally changed the game, because when you start acting to enable value to be created, you are going to start finding your way through the different existing processes, the frameworks, whatever you name it, and then you're going to start thinking about how can I speed up or help to speed up the delivery of the value, solving actual business problems. So this is what we have seen more and more, PMOs transitioning, or traditional PMOs transitioning to this more value management office. And then you have also gave some characteristics, for instance, Jörg, for instance. So thinking about value, thinking about the customer, how can we team up with leadership? How can we team up with people within the organization to give them whatever they need to do their job, for instance? Think strategically, help with prioritization. Resource management in Agile, it's done different in a different way, right? Because when we start a team or a team of teams in Agile, what we want is dedicated people, and then understanding their capacity. What we want is to ensure that these people, they are going to deliver the biggest amount of value in the shortest sustainable lead time, which basically means we are going to strategically prioritize the backlog to ensure that we have the maximum return over the investment that we make. And VMO, or the PMO, as we used to know, is a central piece of that. It's a central piece for this kind of transformation as well. So there are so many things that the PMOs, for instance, they can do in order to evolve, augment their role and their strategic importance as well in an organization, and help effectively solving actual business problems. but we are going to also decrypt these small elements as well, right?
So maybe Jörg, just in the continuation, can you maybe give us more concrete examples? We heard about the prioritization and more concrete examples how this added value can take place.
Absolutely, Arden. And if you allow me, let me just maybe take a quick detour on how to get to this. And Arden, if you can kindly just share this slide again that we had on how to add value as a PMO. So that is just from my point of view a very important thing. So every PMO is different, and we had this before. And Eduardo said so many important things already. I agree with all of them. However, and not however, but since every PMO is different, there's a different path for every PMO to arrive at what the company needs. And what colleagues of mine, namely Christoph Hirnle and Christian Jakob, did is they came up with a beautiful process, which is a cookbook, so to say, on how to build an offering for the PMO regarding what the company actually needs. We call this process the value canvas, and so it's nothing more than a step-by-step process that for every PMO, and that, by the way, applies not only to Agile or PMOs in an Agile environment, and it applies to every PMO. And the steps are so simple that they're actually self-explanatory. However, some of them are counteractively complex. So, for example, the first question here is, all right, just find out who your customer is, and so in that case, this is a stupid question, but actually it's not simple. It's hard. So your customer usually is not your boss. For one customer of ours, it was not the boss; it was the boss's boss, for example. For others, it's the project managers. These are the customers, or the resource managers, or the portfolio board. Or it's hard to find this out. And the second question is then that you have to find out what their outcomes are. And so in that case, I don't want to elaborate on the difference between output and outcomes. Just think of what they need to deliver to keep their jobs. So do they need to deliver faster? Do they need to reduce the time to market? Do they need to create more revenue or save cost? This is what you have to find out. And for this, you have to speak in their language. And so in that case, then the next step is that you think and plan together with them, what do we need to do to deliver your outcomes? And then you do help them deliver this. And when you do deliver and deploy the right services, then you will help them and you will stay in touch with them and also be perceived as a value-adding partner. Once you're done, you need to look at the results, what you did, and then just start from scratch. And this is important for every PMO, but it's especially important for PMOs that are struggling. So, just as Eduardo perfectly said it, a PMO needs to become value-focused or just a value PMO, one that makes sure that the organization spends the money right. And this is, especially in Agile organization, this is more important than ever. Agile is about delivering value, and this is where the PMO can actually help. Sorry, Arden, I just wanted to take this little detour to get to this. And there are a couple of examples that we just compiled for you here, about, what, if you want to go to the next slide, Arden. So you don't need to read all these, but we just wanted, oh, sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry, Arden, can you look in the question panel? There is an interesting question.
I just.
Okay.
Yes, we will come to this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So we compiled a couple of examples we have seen in the real world. And from my point of view, the two of the most important ones are prioritization, and the second one is road mapping. And prioritization is the first that I would like to talk about. I think this is something where a PMO can add so much value. In an Agile world, there's even a phenomenon that is called the execution trap. And the execution trap actually means that, we are, as a company, are quite good with Agile. So that means the Agile teams are humming, they're delivering value, and so everything works just great in Agile terms. However, the organization is delivering so fast that they're losing they're confusing, or what is it? They can't see the tree, the forest for the trees anymore. They get lost in their own world and somehow lose touch with the, say, if you would call it the strategic themes or the portfolio epics. This is where PMO can actually help. They can challenge the list. Remember the story I told you at the beginning. Challenge the list, challenge the prioritization. There was a nice LinkedIn post from Kirsty Cook. She called it prioritization with teeth. So that means PMOs can really go in and say, tell me, I don't get it. How is this helping us save costs as a company? How does that reduce our time to market? How does that create more revenue? I don't understand it. Please explain it to me as if I would be a child. Challenge this. And also challenge if the most capable teams are working on what matters, and ask hard questions. This is how, this might be awkward, but it's actually very valuable. And the second thing,
chime in?
Oh, absolutely.
Because what you're mentioning is an absolutely great and important thing, and I couldn't agree more. Let me give you another example. So 3-4 months ago, I have published a paper about capacity allocation in portfolios, for instance, and VMO, PMO, you name it, right? It's right in the middle of this, because I used to say that one of the things that I do when I start analyzing strategy of companies, when I start working with portfolio management and stuff, is we take a look at the strategy of the company, or those beautiful slides that the executives they share in the beginning of the year. Probably we have seen a few of those already, right? And what gets done. So it has a totally link with what you have said, and this is what. So I'm just going to give you an idea about what I'm talking about. If you have ever watched, for instance, Netflix movies, series, American series, where you see the FBI involved, so they have what they call FBI strategy, which means follow the money, because money talks. So if you see the strategy, those beautiful slides, and then you see the execution, and then you see, for instance, that the execution is not linked to the strategy, that's exactly the very moment where the VMO needs to chime in and start asking those hard questions. For instance, tell me how this is helping the company to advance on the strategic goals that we have set, that we have discussed. For instance, there is no wrong or right or wrong answer here, because it might be for a very good cause and bringing even better results than we have ever imagined or first imagined, right? But we need to understand, and those are the kind of conversations where the VMO needs to step in and start showing the value that they have, because they have a lot of value in this to provoke this kind of conversations.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. I couldn't agree anymore. And I think this is also how the PMO also is perceived as an actual business partner, not just as the report guys from the basement, which sometimes is a problem. Just one more thing that I just wanted to add is so road mapping sounds lame. We've been doing road mapping ever since, but it is an important thing. It is so important because through road mapping you actually connect the strategy to the delivery. You check if this works. Especially working with Agile teams, this is something that they recognize now. A couple of years back when they started working with Agile teams and asked them, all right, guys, when will this be done? They just told you it's done when it's done. Okay, we're Agile. Don't ask me. Get lost. Get out of here. But I think the world is different now, and everybody understands that there needs to be a way to recognize deadlines and to understand when what is done. I'm not saying that I exactly can predict which feature will be done, but that we can deliver something. A customer of ours said this perfectly. They're a big insurance company, and they said, we need to book those TV commercials way in advance. And when I book them, I need to be certain that I have a product. Otherwise, we will run those commercials for a ton of money, and I have nothing to deliver until then. I can't do this. So this is why roadmap is important, to answer the question, when will this be done? Do we have the dependencies right? Do we have also enough capacity, right, Eduardo?
Absolutely, yeah. There is. I was discussing with this colleague the other day, and then there was discussion going around about capacity and what you have mentioned as well, Jörg, about prioritization. And then do we have what we need to deliver what we are supposed, for instance. And then he coined a great sentence. And then I said, okay, hear me out. I'm gonna write it down. I'm going to post on my LinkedIn. So it was about 3-4 months ago, and I'm going to give you the credits, of course. But I wrote it down, and it was a fantastic sentence. And then he said, eventually, every project becomes agile. It usually happens when the budget is gone and the deadline is breathing down your neck. That's when all the unnecessary work, output and vanity work, they vanish. At that point, only one question remains. What is the highest value I can deliver with what I have left? So Harry, if you are listening to this, watching to this is your sentence. Thank you very much. And I told you that I would give you the credit. But that's exactly the point, right? So we need to ensure that we are investing in our capacity, our people, our resources onto the most strategic things. And then when we see, for instance, in a roadmap, this is a great tool. Yes, we do have roadmaps in Agile. Yeah, we are 20 some years past the Agile Manifesto, and there are still people in company that believe that in Agile we don't have roadmaps. So please hear me out. We have, right? This is a great tool to manage expectations. This is a great tool to align, to generate other discussions, because that's also a very important thing. So the question that we have always to ask ourselves is, do we need to do everything from A to Z without looking at the value? It's just a matter of output, what you have just mentioned as well, Jörg, right? Or we try to identify what is the most important strategic part of every single item that we have, and we strip away, we split the part that takes more effort, more cost, if you will, right? From the part that delivers the most value. And then we do that part, and then we move to the next strategic thing. And then we end up by entering in a very positive cycle, or the lean product development cycle. We have a product that adds or delivers a lot of value with the minimum amount of investment. And again, VMOs, PMOs are right in the middle of this whole discussion. You can name it. Just from what you have said, Jörg, what I have mentioned as well, strategic discussions, alignment between strategy and execution, prioritization, also asking the hard questions, ensuring that we are executing according to what is expected, communicating, road mapping, all of these kind of things. So I could list, my list would go on and on and on the importance of VMO, but I think we are limited in the amount of time. But
no,
I'm
exactly.
going to keep
So
this one here.
Think so. Yeah. Due to the time, it would be now the perfect time, Jörg, if we would jump in the tool briefly to show how that looks, what you were describing in the practice. Absolutely. And then, because just to the audience and the participants, we will come to your questions after the demo now from Jörg, which he will rely on what we were just discussing. But please put your questions right now already in the question thread. We will come to this right now. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Arden, before I go to this, can you go to the next slide, please? There's a picture of how we perceive or what we think is a good way to deal with projects and epics and stories and so on in an agile world. And it's a very simple process. Can you go to the next slide, please, Arden?
I'm on it, Jörg. It will occur in just a second. Sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Well, while you're bringing it up, I can also talk about this. So what we think when please do. So when you're thinking about doing something for the company, it's a 4-step process. So, and the first thing is that you think about what we could we do next year. So that means you initiate something. So that initiate just means what that could be an interesting thing. And what you have to capture for this thing is not an actual estimate, but it's rather something we call this an appetite. So what, this is so interesting. I think we could put 100 days on this, or $10,000, or something like this. when this has been, or when everybody likes this, then we can talk about shaping this. So shaping means, all right, let's be a little more concrete and come up with, like, high-level estimates. But you can see it's still not planned down to the day or something like this. It's being shaped, and once that is, and then it needs to be planned down to the stories, to the story level estimates. So that's where it becomes very concrete. And once you have delivered this, then you do have actuals. So the story that the message I'm trying to convey here is that when you start planning something, you don't need detailed estimations for this. And this is what I would just like to show you how this works from our point of view. So what you can see here is a software called Meisterplan. This is what we do. And I just want to do two quick things. First, I would like to show you how we do it in our company and how we also look at the planning of next year. So you can see here, these are all my projects. These are my PIs, program increments, for all my Agile experts here. And you can see there's also, and we will get to this in a minute, and there's also a rough planning for next year. It's a very rough planning. And all right, let's open this up, and you know what? Let's just add something to this. I have an idea that we could add something to this, for example, leverage AI functionality, something like this. Okay, I don't need to put in much effort, but I can attach it to a goal that the company has. For example, here, omnichannel readiness. I can put in, this t-shirt size. I think you guys know this, and I could even think of something we call the center of gravity. So that, is it rather an infrastructure topic? Is it a program topic? But I don't need to. So it's absolutely enough to just put something in. All right, leverage AI functionality. There I have it. Okay, let's do this next year. All right, is this an infrastructure or a programming topic? I think it might be something with infrastructure. All right, let's look for the release train infrastructure. All right, I think I need those guys. Looks good. Okay, and what is the appetite I have here? Maybe let's, I don't know, 50 days or something like this. I can just put this in. All right, and now I already see what other things we have that take capacity from this release train from the infrastructure team. So I know that I couldn't probably not do it in the beginning of the year, but you see here in the second half of the year, this fits in quite well. I could even bite off a larger piece of the pie. So all right, so that is it. And you can see this is super simple. It's a 4-month project, probably, or 3 months, or maybe it's 5 months. But I think this is important. This is why I'm investing why I agree to invest 150 days into this. That's a very easy way to do this. And you see, this has nothing to do with program increments or with stories or with features. And it's just a very simple initial estimation. Another way to deal with this is, in the Agile fashion, where we look at, PIs and can do this a bit more concrete. Here it is. So far, it has been unassigned. All right, let's see. Which team could do this? Maybe my team Apple. That looks quite good. And you see here, the team Apple has a work in process limit of 100. So that means I could probably put this in my Q2 PI. So that looks quite good. If I put this in here, that might be too much because it's 160. So maybe right here. Okay, so that's a very, very, very rough planning. And once this rough planning has been agreed to, this is then when the shaping happens. And the shaping is something that then happens in another tool, in a detailed planning tool, for example, in Jira or in Azure DevOps or something like this. This is why Meisterplan can send the stuff over to this other tool. It gets synced over, and then people can start do the detailed planning. For example, come up with user stories, come up with features and whatnot, and so on. Once this, let's just jump ahead and see how this looks like when we're actually planning this. So let's close the 2026 planning and let's look into something that's happening right now. So let's look at our PI for this quarter here. Okay, I can see everything that is going on here, and I can see there's progress on this stuff. All right, that looks quite good. Ooh, there's something red. Oh, all right, something wrong here. What's going on? Okay. Actually looks quite okay, but something is red. And the reason why this is red is that this tells me that in my connected tool, Meisterplan is a portfolio level. It looks down to the actual data in my connected tool. Something is wrong, and I see, 42 days missing in Meisterplan. What does that mean? That means that in my Agile tool, either some estimations have been overrun or there just new stories came in. So now I have the decision of either I tell those people, you need to reduce your backlog. We can't do all that stuff. There's stuff outside of our allocation. We just can't do this. So either we discuss if we should remove it, or I could adjust. I say, this is all very important. All right, let's adjust my allocation here. Super simple. I just hit this and I say, all right, let's take over those estimations. Okay, that looks quite good. Okay, perfect. So in that case, I have accepted this. Ooh, now I get into trouble. Why is this? Do you see this? There's a red line on this, and that tells me now as team red has more work to do. They can't deliver this. Oh, okay, 0365 requirements. You know what? Let's push this to the next PI. So I can just take this one, and then I push this to the next PI, and I think that should be good. Oh, no, it's not good, because there's dependencies. So this one is delivering something that another epic needs. So I need to probably take this back here and put it back into my current PI. What could I do? You know what? This is a pretty basic requirement. So maybe we can replace the team and look for another team. And I can see, wow, you see there's a list of the teams, and I can see that Team Apple still has enough capacity. Let's replace this. Wow, good. That looks better. Everything is green now. Okay, so that is quite okay. And so the delivery dates are good. And this is green, so I'm quite happy with this. By the way, I'm working in a scenario at the moment. So that means everything that I did, I can just revert this and say, no, that was nonsense. Let's do it again. But I like this quite I like this. And now I can look at the compact roadmap and I can see, all right, that looks quite good. Everything is green. I can see that my important company events and deadlines are actually met. So that's also positive. So I think I'm good. Okay, and that was just a very brief look into how Meisterplan deals with resources, with the roadmap, and also with the prioritization.
Great summary. Thank you very much, Jörg. And
thank you,
we will show who has interest after the webinar. You can contact us anytime. Who is more interested in a deep dive here? Just thank you, Jörg. And we have questions in the thread. And the first is maybe Eduardo or Jörg. How can a PMO support the shift from a project mindset to a product mindset in an agile transformation? Very interesting. So who wants to start? Eduardo, maybe.
Okay, so we have seen this shift from projects to products. This is something that is going on for quite some time, and it has to do, for instance, with capacity and scalability, of course. Also with the idea that we can scale up development to have a better gains at scale and things like that. So from a PMO standpoint, I think it's important to start asking questions. PMO is not going to decide or point directions, but but the PMO, VMO, they are going to start asking questions. For instance, to product managers, to solution managers, they're going to ask how much of what you have just defined as part of a project, for instance, we can productize. Does it make sense? What is the part of it that we can start creating an internal product that when a new customer comes, for instance, instead of having 20% that is product and 80% that is customized, right? How can we help to switch? So in the best configured order, engineering to order type of switch, for instance. So asking these provocative questions to the right people. How much of this can we turn into an actual product that will serve the strategy of the company, and then will help as well to solve business problems from our customers as well? So ask questions. These are very provocative questions that will make people think. So this is the kind of partnership that we are looking for. This is just a way to start. We could write a book about it, of course. I hope it helps.
Jörg, any ideas on this, or we can go to the, okay,
Yeah,
let's go to the next one.
As time short, so
yeah.
there was a question about the key metrics, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Can you read that question, please, Arden?
Yes. What key metrics are organizations typically using in prioritizing their backlog as they shift from a traditional waterfall methodology to an agile way of working?
Okay. This is a great question because this is also a very important transition question, and as you can imagine, there's a ton of metrics. Well, my personal experience, this is my personal experience. Eduardo might not agree, but my personal experience, there's one set that I really love is this WSJF set. WSJF is an artificial word. It means so it's WSJF. It means latest, shortest job first. You can read tons of this in the internet. So the WSJF, latest job, shortest job first. It's super simple. You just have to answer a couple of questions. So, for example, what size are we dealing with? Is the big one? Is it small one? You can do this in days or in story points or just T-shirt sizes. Just as we had. We do it in T-shirt sizes. Is it M? Is it L? Is it XL? And by the way, there has to be no nomenclature about what this means. It only means that when you have a list of that stuff, you can say, you know what, this is probably bigger than the other, and that's smaller. Put this behind that one. It's just to create a sorted list. And then you do this 4 times: job size, business value, time criticality, and rank. No, hold on. And then
risk reduction, opportunity enablement.
Exactly, the risk reduction and opportunity. Thank you very much. I was just testing you, Eduardo, as you know. So from those 4 factors, a score will be calculated. Super simple formula, and then you have a list, a prioritized list. I very much suggest. I wrote something about this on LinkedIn. If you want to have a look, or maybe Arden, we can also attach the story, the link to this where I was describing this. It's super simple. It's a lot of fun, especially as a group exercise. So my personal experience.
So I completely agree with you. In fact, and I honestly, this is one of the metrics that I like the most, because it refers back to the economics of the product development flow, and it talks about all of these perspectives that we don't think about them. I mean, we think, but we put all of them together, and they are not exactly the same. But there are also other metrics. For instance, if you think, there are some very nice metrics, value-oriented, called pirate metrics, AARRR. So this is a great framework as well. There is the Google Heart metrics as well that you can use. It focuses on outcomes rather than outputs. So there are many different things that a PMO, a VMO can use to help to turn the ship around and start talking about value, not just output. So outcomes instead of outputs. So take a look at Google Heart, pirate metrics. Definitely go for WSJF, weighted shortest job first, as Jörg mentioned.
So here is another question. It's like maybe if you train a PMO team on agile methodologies, don't you think that PMO will be ready to handle any kind of projects with some guidance? My understanding is they are still in a PMO, and maybe now we are talking about a hybrid environment. That's more my understanding, that my interpretation goes in this direction. So maybe Jörg, if you're still working in a PMO, and then you have different kind of projects, so to say, maybe agile, then some of the teams are still working in the waterfall scenario. How can you support this?
Absolutely. And so from my point of view, this is normal. So that means I have maybe just seen one organization that was truly 100% agile, but that's really one. All the other organizations still had standard projects because they had a need for this. And so that means I think it is absolutely normal that a PMO has to support both ways of working. And if you think back to our value canvas circle, right? So you will have to find out again what the most important thing is that your customers need. Maybe there's a shift in your customers. Maybe you have 2 customers, and then you also have to prioritize. From my point of view, a PMO that is looking at as a changing environment needs to, adapt its mindset in its processes and also the governance to this new thing. So, for example, of course, this is super simple, but let's still say it. Agile projects don't need an earned value analysis anymore, but Agile projects need their velocity measured, for example, and they need quality metrics and things like that, or they just need a partner to talk to that challenges them if they are working on the right things. Eduardo, would you agree with this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So to come back to the question, so if a PMO is trained in this kind of topics, for instance, they will be able to give better support. That's absolutely true. We see those kind of things, and especially because the PMO VMO can be an advisor, for instance. Well, for these kind of things, you can go waterfall, and that's absolutely perfect. There is absolutely no problem with that, right? But for this kind of things, you might go to an agile way of working, for instance, right? So understanding the difference about when to use one and when to use another, that gives a PMO a huge leverage in this kind of discussion as well. So understanding that waterfall is leaning more towards a complicated environment where you have cause and consequence, if then else, where you master the technology, you have the resources, there is not a lot of changes, for instance, that is a perfect spot for waterfall. On the other hand, when there is no complex environment, no necessarily link between cause and consequence, you have to navigate your way, create hypotheses, validate as quick as possible, shift, pivot to persevere. That is a great space for Agile. So if the PMO understands the difference between one and the other, that's exactly where you should be at. A great advisor for strategic choices in your company, in fact. So honestly, as you have also mentioned, Jörg, so I'm glad that you have seen one company that everything was 100% Agile. To the date, I have never seen that. And to be honest, I don't even think it makes sense. But yeah, you never know, right? You never know.
All right. So we have 7 minutes left. So I would like to focus a little bit on the resource or capacity management at the end. So maybe Jörg, why is resource management still relevant in an agile environment?
I think Eduardo said it perfectly before. So resource management is different in an agile environment. You don't need to plan the day down to to the hour and to the tasks, because the teams do this themselves. They consider detailed planning as waste, and I agree. In agile environment, you don't need this. Resource management is different. Resource management is rather about making sure that the roadmap works and that the organizational goals can be achieved. So that means you're rather talking about teams or even release trains, and make sure that you're allocating the capacity on your strategic goal. It's one level or maybe even two level higher, but it is even more impactful and it is even more important. So that means, from my point of view, resource management is an absolutely necessary thing. It's just a little bit different.
It's just a different perspective.
Eduardo, maybe in the safe environment, or they don't talk about PMOs or resource management, but alignment is an issue, right? And from everything what you said, so can you maybe from your point of view say how the PMO fits in as the role, and who does he? You were talking about a leadership behavior. How does it look like in an agile environment? What is the specific role he has to fulfill there?
Yeah, so I like that specific angle from a leadership standpoint. Okay, so I'm going to talk just 30 seconds about it, because a PMO, a VMO, for instance, they are on the leading seat, in fact, when it comes to helping to link the strategy and execution. That said, they need to lead the way. They need to show how to do it. They need to lead by example, right? So when you have a company that is moving towards this more business agility sort of thing, they are transforming the way they operate. For instance, the PMO should be the first one to start changing the questions they ask. So they should ask for different questions and not keep asking the exact same questions as we used to ask in the past. So that is the kind of thing that completely changes the game, and that will put the VMO, PMO back in the leading seat for this kind of thing, and be seen as a strategic partner for the organization. So that, from my perspective, is one of the most important things. I don't know if I answer your question, but
yes,
I
perfectly.
think it's an interesting thing to share as well.
Okay, and another question here.
If I can add to this,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but I would very much love to encourage everybody here who is working in PMO to stand up and take pride in yourself, because you are an integral part of the company, and if yours can manage to translate this chaos that's happening everywhere into clarity, if you can help to connect the dots, and find the patterns between strategy and align this with the capacity, so with the ability that you have, and can make sure that everything is working on the right things, then you have stepped up your game. And I would very much encourage you to try it out and accept the challenge.
That's almost already. It sounds very good as final words, but I have one more question here from Debbie Somerville. I want to point this. When you have agile training, can you explain the different levels of training you would recommend for teams, PMOs versus leadership? Eduardo, maybe.
Yeah, so just to bring the conversation a little bit to the scaled agile framework, for instance, a great training for PMO, VMO to start with would be leading safe, because that's the moment that we start presenting the framework. We give kind of a helicopter view for them about the framework, but it's not necessarily about the framework itself. It's about the way of thinking, the economics of product development. How do we do things? How do we align? How do we synchronize, right? So they can have a good perspective in that sense. We touch a little bit into the topic of lean portfolio management as well, to say, hey, this is a huge thing, and you should be right in the center of these discussions. So that would be an entry point. Okay. A second step, if they want to specialize into effective lean portfolio management, then LPM, lean portfolio management, would be a great fit for them. 2 days of training where we talk about aligning strategy and execution, agile portfolio governance. We talk about agile portfolio operations as well, lean governance. So this is, yeah, I guess I have said that thousands of times already, but this is VMO, PMO task.
So, okay, so that's as well for the leadership. So you don't differentiate there from teams, PMOs, or leadership. So there are different possibilities for different levels, right? That's what you're mentioning here for this kind of training. Okay. So we are at the end of of our session. I enjoyed it very much. I hope the participants enjoyed it as well. And sorry, I was struggling a little bit with the slides. I hope I couldn't change it here, but thank you very much, Eduardo, for taking the time. Thank you very much for being here with us. It was really great. Thank you, Jörg, for being here with us. And we will share with the participants the contact. Jörg mentioned his publication as well. There will be more information. The slides, we will share them with you at the beginning of next week. You will have all this information at hand, and looking forward to the next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Arden. Thank you, Jörg.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.